Yo, what's going on? My name is Matthew, and today we are going to break down my song, Love We're Making. So, let's start right off with how the song actually began, which was this really interesting Rickenbacker bass kind of riff that I was rocking. Sounds a little something like this. Check it out. And then, you know what? As the song grew and developed, I ended up being like, I don't know, it doesn't have enough energy for the beginning. So at the time, conveniently, I was actually learning how to play guitar. And my brother just like left his guitar here one week. And so I put the guitar in like drop D and I was like trying to play some chords and shit. And I was just experimenting with like simple like voicings like root 5 and then like the 9 or like the 10 or something like that. So this is kind of what I got. Which, like, you know, it sounds pretty good. Again, it's literally the first thing that I recorded guitar over, like, ever, I think. Yeah, ever. And so, you know, learning experience. But shout out to Nick Spat for this this guitar processing, which is super, super fire. He put me on to RVox, or no, sorry, RAX on your guitar is a move. It's a fucking move. Cool. So let's move into the vocal processing, actually. So I was rocking this interesting plugin at the time called JJP Vocals, which, so here's the thing. As we go through, like, I produced this song back in July, and now it's December, right? So like there's a decent amount of learning that I've done in between then and now. And so as we go through this session, we'll kind of find like spots where I'm like, oh, I would do this differently now, and I'll point those out. This is actually one of those spots. So here's our first little pothole. I don't use this plugin anymore because it's one of those like straight out of the box plugins that just makes you get like a good vocal sound like super, super quick. But when it comes to editing specific things like ratio, like threshold, like knee, it doesn't really allow you to get that extra specificity there. Wow, we're using SAT words today. So essentially, I wouldn't use this plugin anymore. Everything else, yeah, definitely. Maybe not in this order. Maybe not specifically like this. Like, oh yeah. For example, I have the attack on like the fastest setting that you can go on. I don't know if I would do that. I feel like these days I'm usually rocking it a little bit back just because it sounds like so compressed when you have it on like the fastest attack. I just like to give the transient a little bit of room to grow. So basically this is what we're working with. I'll kind of just like add plugins in as the vocal's going. And here's the first two lines, just over and over again. How can I sleep at night? So that's just auto tune. When the love that I found don't feel right. Facts. How can I sleep at JJP night? Vocals. When the love that I found don't feel right. Mostly just adding high end. How can I sleep first round of de-essing, which holy shit. When the love that I found don't feel right. It's a lot of de-essing, but how can I sleep at night? Here's our first compressor. When the love that I found don't feel right. How can it's pulling a lot of weight, that compressor. When the love that I found second compressor. Right. How can I sleep at night? Distortion. When the love that I found don't feel right. High end boost. How can I sleep at night? Second de-esser. When the love that I found don't feel right. Take out the low end. How can I sleep at night? And then control the mid. When the love that I found don't feel right. And there it is. How can I sleep at night? So that's also obviously with the buses on. So on this first bus, I have Valhalla Delay, which is like such a cool freaking plugin. Like just for creativity and also for like utilitarian stuff as well. Like obviously your classic like ping pong delays and whatever. So it's a really cool plugin because it's got this ducking feature where basically like as the dry signal comes in, it won't give any wet signal, and then as soon as the dry signal like dissipates off, the wet signal like pushes up, and you can adjust how much it does that just with the percentage knob there, which is super dope. Cool. And then on the second bus, I have just vintage verb with a relatively like short pre-delay time, and basically like this is just what you see as soon as you open the vintage verb plugin, except the only change that I made was I just pulled up the low cut a little bit, because vintage verb just sounds good, man. Just sounds so freaking good. I chose to spread out in the stereo image the reverb as much as I possibly could here. And I usually like the third setting here just because, I don't know, like it's usually just what you want. Like right now I'm kind of halfway in between this third one and like the first one. Like I use them about the same, but in this case I use the third one, and I put the detune all the way up to the top. So here's what the vocal sounds like with that guitar.
How can I sleep at night when the love that I found don't feel right?
Facts. Yo, also forgot to mention that there is a little extra EQ handling 8600 hertz. I guess I thought there was like some resonance up there or something. Another de-esser, because you know every vocal needs 3. More TDR Nova, just handling looks like around 440 hertz. You know, I guess there is just a little bit of a inconsistency with that frequency. And then, oh my god, another de-esser? Yeah, see, like, I don't know, this is one of those things that I probably wouldn't do that many times. That's like OD de-essing right there. And then C4, which is a great multi-band compressor. And what I wanted to do here was just really control those highs, because I felt like, I guess they were just not consistent enough. So yeah, that's kind of my entire vocal processing. All of that processing that I just went through is on all of the different leads here. So yeah, cool. Let's rock over into the first chorus. So first things first, the drums. I like sampled these super distorted, like weird underworld kind of drums, and they're like in halftime as well. So the first chorus is different than all the other choruses in that way, because it's in halftime. The rest of them are in like regular time, or it might technically be double time. I don't fucking know. It just feels good. That's all that matters. But here's those drums with a kick. And then with a snare. Just to give that like dark, like underwater, like craziness vibe. And then here I have 2 basses. So this first one right here is kind of a Reese bass, which is just like a really interesting, like distorted vibe. With a sub, of course. And then once you add the drums in on top of all that, you get something that sounds like this. It's fire. So that's basically the arrangement for the first chorus. Obviously the vocals are on top of that stuff, but there's something to be said about having the instrumental be super dark, and then having the vocal be like the only thing that actually has high frequency content in it, you know? It's an interesting arrangement choice, and it's usually like very effective. And I kind of feel like that is at play throughout most of this song. So let's just hear what that sounds like in the first chorus as a whole.
I don't need a second chance, I don't wanna love again. Every time I do, I come back to you. When I'm alone, I can't ever lose.
Oh man, I forgot about some really cool stuff. So quickly, I'll just show you this vocal ambience thing. This is actually one of the first things that I recorded into this session. I think like the order of it was like bass first, and then there was like this ad lib. So it sounds like this. So it's like a weird little like, I remember I took my hands and I went, because you know, as producers, you gotta keep yourself entertained, right? And then I was messing around with this really weird shit during the first verse. So check this out. Actually, in between phrases, you get this ad lib right here. I'll show you.
Don't feel right.
So what that is literally just like, it's just me going like, oh, and then I slowed it down and I time stretched it. You know what I did? I went into auto-tune here and I pulled the throat down by like 180 apparently. And so off the bat, I had something that sounded like this. And then with like my typical vocal chain plus some delay, reverb, and like an EQ, this is what I got. Yeah, you can hear I also have it kind of going from like left to right using Pan Man by Soundtoys. Cool. And then during the chorus, back to the chorus now, I actually had a different ad lib on that same processing chain. So it sounds like this. And again, that's kind of in between two like lead vocal phrases. So it's just there to bridge the gap between them, give a little ear candy. Cool. Why don't we move on to the next section? Let's go to the second verse. So this is really where like the drums come in. Like this is the drum spotlight time. So essentially what I was doing here is I made the drums, like I wanted to catch the listener off guard a little bit. So I made the drums come in like regular time after just hearing a chorus that was in halftime. And like to me that felt like jarring, but in like a good way, in like an effective way. So this is kind of what I was rocking. Went pretty nuts on these samples, not gonna lie. So we got our kick. Yeah, man. Oh, that's a kick, all right. Cool. Another kick. Real kick. Let me pause really fast. For the real kick, I actually used one of my favorite like drum sample libraries, which is called Studio Drummer. It's another Native Instruments plugin. Super fire. Like you can get this like really interesting like character to your samples if you layer some of Studio Drummer on top of that. Like it gives it the realism. And also there's like so many different velocities inside of Studio Drummer, so it's super dope. Put some hats in there. And then 4 more layers of hats. Oh, this is actually something I like to do. I like to put Valhalla delay on my hats too. And the reason being is because I feel like if you're at like a rock show, I was trying to like simulate the way that like you almost hear like a slapback off of like the far wall in a way. Like if you're in this massive stadium, like, and like the drummer hits like the snare, you can almost like hear the echo of it and the reverb of it, but you hear this like slapback that like, I don't know, it just kind of like makes it feel super lively. So I emulated that here with Valhalla delay. I have it on like a super quick duration. It's on the 1/32 note, and the feedback is pretty low. So there's only a couple repetitions of the actual delay. But without it, it sounds like this. And then with it, so I really dig that effect. I threw in the dark drums actually from the original first chorus. So those are just like spicing this section up a little bit. So check this out. And then some toms in here too, just to like just to differentiate some of the snare hits, which actually I'll put in the snare first so you could hear when the toms come in. So check this out. You know what I mean? Just a little, like, I feel like a live drummer would play something along those lines type shit. Cool, man. That's basically the drums. Why don't we hear all of that? Cool. Sick. Why don't we go to the bass really fast? So check this out. So in the first chorus, it was like long sustained notes. Now LFO tool is on them, which is basically like it can be used to emulate like a ducking effect, but it's basically like a LFO that is controlling the volume. So essentially, I set it to the like eighth note duration, and so it sounds something like this. And then with the bass, with the drums, it sounds like this. Cool. And then the only other things that I have on this second verse are just the guitars and the vocals.
You already told me how you're feeling about me, and I'm sorry I don't feel the same as you do.
Oh, this is cool, actually. The ad-libs that I threw into verse 2, like, I don't know. For me, like, verse 2 is, like, the time for the dope ad-libs to come out. You know what I mean? I feel like if you go through some of my songs, that's kind of what you'll find. Common thread between. So check this out. These are just the ad-libs.
Don't feel the same.
So like my goal here was just to like really gas the amount of like things that are happening in the background. I feel like it's so important that you have depth to your mix. And for me, this is kind of my farthest layer, and then everything else kind of stacks in front of this layer. So with the lead vocal, check this out.
Red lights start changing color.
So it's like ad-lib stuff, like it's super distorted, it's in the background. My vocal chain for that like ambience thing, like this shit. I just EQ'd it in a super weird way to the point where it's almost like it's pretty resonant down in the mids. And then I have Valhalla delay, of course. The ducking is on there, so super cool feature. And then I distorted it. Devil Lock has like quickly become one of my favorite distortions as well. And then I widened it as well, so it kind of just has this like super like distant but like also very loud sort of vibe to it. Cool. Moving on. Something that I want to talk about here. So I wanted it to kind of feel like it like fell off, like almost like things were like slowing down, like the same way in like a cartoon you see like he's like going and then everything slows down. So what I did was I took the sub, I bounced it out, and then kind of pushed the pitch wheel down with it. So check this out. And then I put some effects down here. Like there's this reverse vocal happening at the same time. There's a riser happening at the same time. And there's this like wind sound effect happening. So with all that, it sounds something like this. And that'll lead us right into our next chorus there. Yeah, so basically at the same time as all that as well, there's this drum fill. Like it's the first time that you really like hear the toms. So check this out.
Is it still love we're making? I don't need.
Yeah, so kind of just like a super epic moment. And then there's something that happens once in the song, and never again. It's this little, I called it a cymbal. I think it's a tambourine though, low key. Yeah, facts. A little bit of distortion on there. And that's pretty much it, man. But it really, really pushes up that, it pushes up the transient of the chorus a bit.
Love we're making. I don't need a second.
Yeah, it just kind of makes it a little epic. So throughout this chorus, the bass, as you can see, actually like the old bass from the beginning of the song, like the one that I originally had there, is playing this. There's another bass that's doing this. The sub. And then that last Reese bass. So like the thing about stacking bass layers, or what I've found, is that like it's not wrong to have a lot of bass layers. Like having a lot of them can really increase the depth and just the overall like girth of your bass sound. So in this case, what I have here, like in terms of like functionality, obviously the sub is on the bottom. It's handling anything like below like, 85, 90 hertz. And then on top of that, you get the punchy bass, which as you can see, I'm not letting the punchy bass go deep into like the sub frequencies, right? It's low cut at 131. And then after that comes the Reese bass, which in this case, I don't actually think that I low cut it, but I didn't hear any issues when it was being paired together with the sub. On top of those three layers, right? So those three are working pretty well together. Then comes this other layer, which, I mean, look how much I'm low cutting that, like 194 hertz. Like there's no true low end in this sound. This is like the bass. Like at that point, it's basically just like a mid-range instrument, But yeah, so those are all just like layers, just making the whole thing bigger. But cool. So I also remember I added in, oh, this is kind of interesting. Yeah, so right, I wasn't good at guitar at this time. I'm still not good at guitar, but like I could play much better than this. But at the time, I was just playing these like two notes, I think it was. Let me just double check. I can't believe that's in there. But then with all the processing and stuff like that, if the processing will load, check this out. This is what I got. So it's like, again, depth in the mix, right? This is this is the furthest back layer in the chorus, I would say. There's a lot of reverb on it, and it kind of has that like high pitched like ringing and stuff like that, which I think, oh, that's crystallizer. Yeah. So I put crystallizer on that, as well as like a ton of distortion, obviously. And yeah, I mean, like it just sounds fire, honestly. It sounds like a pad. Also, at the last chorus, I put in these power chords. And that's kind of the production, I'm not gonna lie. These are just more power chords. But yeah, so let me play the entire thing just leading up to that last chorus, and then we'll talk about the outro.
Is it still love we're making? I don't need a second chance. I don't wanna love again. Every time I do, I come back to you. When I'm alone, I can't.
Oh, I should definitely talk about these bass samples. So I like distorted the living crap out of a bass. Actually the same Rickenbacker bass. And then I sampled it here. And you can see like I literally just like play one sample at a time. but I have it slowed down to like half speed. So it doesn't really sound like a bass. It just sounds like some wacky shit. But then I'm throwing it into Effect Rack, more Devil Lock, and then just like a super, super, super conservative EQ on this. And that's happening like right in the choruses. So check this out.
I don't need a second chance. I don't wanna.
And it's just kind of like this really intense, like dark underworldy sort of thing that's happening. Cool. To end the song, I actually took the original bass from the beginning of the song, this one that used to be there, and I put it at the end because I felt like as the energy was trailing off overall, that bass actually started to serve the song. So check this out. So yeah, the bass actually did make the final cut. And then the song at the very, very end, I put this little ambience thing because the place that this was recorded at, I recorded this on my iPhone. It was like super significant to the actual message of the song and like the lyrical content. So that's kind of how I decided to end this one. And yeah, that's kind of everything though. This was not like a overcomplicated production at all. And I remember as I had my like oh shit moment with it, which is like the moment where you kind of realize what the song wants to be. From there on, it was probably 6 hours of like production, which is like not a ton overall. I've had songs that I've spent like super, super long on, much longer than 6 hours. And this was like a pretty fast process. In terms of sending it out for mastering, all I had to do, all I felt was necessary was just rocking some OTT on the master. So you can see I literally have it at 5%. But wait, I'm gonna show you a trick right now that you probably don't know about. So this is just regular OTT, right? From Expert Records. But then if you go over here to editor and you click controls, come over here to clean XOV, which is crossover, and turn it on. And you'll notice it's a very, very, very small difference, but it literally just makes OTT sound 10 times better. Like it's just like a hidden feature in there. And then you can just go right back to editor. But look, where I'll A/B it right now. So check this out. This is without it.
You already told me how you're feeling about me, and I'm sorry I don't feel the same as you do. Oh. Red lights start changing.
Like OTT is only mixing at like 5%, but if I were to gas that up, you'd probably notice the difference. It almost sounds like the mix kind of opens up in a way and creates more like just space overall. Yeah, so OTT, and then I didn't even have a limiter on it. Like right now I have Oxford limiter on it just because I wanted to get that shit fat as I was listening to it. And also as I was like sending out demos or demos of this song to people to get opinions back. But I did not send it out for mastering with the limiter on. I chose to let my mastering engineer, shout out to John Jetter, handle the limiting on this one just because like, I don't know, I just felt like it was necessary. But yeah, that's kind of it though. This is Love We're Making.